Mark Blutman, welcome to Out of the Spotlight.
Wow, I am so honored to be here, Stephanie. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm so humbled that you asked me to join you. So let's have some fun.
Let's get this started. No, and that means so much coming from you because likewise, I admire you so much and you've been part of some very important historical, just like there's so much heart in a lot of the work that you do and that you've done. It's an honor to have you on. It really is. So thank you so much. I've been waiting for this moment. I truly have.
Oh, well, again, I'm absolutely flattered and I followed a lot of your stuff. What's so cool about the world now, it's like you don't have to like have your own segment on NBC or ABC or ESPN or whatever to reach people. And because of social media, you're out there. I've seen you on Instagram and I'm like, oh, I'm a fan of what she does and promoting certain sports and personalities and very loyal to your local Houston, community. And I'm like, I'm a fan. And that's the beauty of Instagram. But that's the beauty of Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and all that is that like, you have the ability to reach people randomly and you're not even aware of it.
And that's something too that I was thinking back this morning. And in a weird way, I don't know if you remember this, in a weird way, I feel like Bob Saget connected us, you and I. It was the craziest thing.
Oh, I miss Bob. It's just so tragic.
Yeah.
I first met Bob, I want to say in the 80s, when we were both young stand-up comics. He was from Philadelphia, had already moved to LA. I was from Montreal, and he was one of the first headliners that came to Montreal. And I remember one afternoon, I took him to a Montreal Expo baseball game. And we hung out. And, there's that list of people in show business, like the nice people. And certainly Tom Hanks is on that list. And people talk about Henry Winkler. Bob Saget's one of the nicest people, like just to, ever, take a stage or, be on camera. Full House, of course, America's Funniest Videos. And yeah, I miss Bob a lot. So that's how we connected. And here we are years later. It's
so
great.
Wild. It's great. No, and I love hearing stories like that. And obviously, I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now. There's a lot. And one of those things is obviously the writer's strike. I mean, that's affected. Look at, yes.
The sweaty hat. It's like 100 degrees in the valley. I got all the sweat here. There were only 100 of these hats made. Some anonymous donor made 100 of these and dropped them off at Fox one day.
What?
That's what's amazing. Like, and we'll get into it in more detail, but this strike, and now of course the actors have joined us, as you know, Stephanie, but this strike is different than any other. And there's just been this groundswell of support from middle America. The PR war, which is in any strike, is in our favor. And just random people like this person made a couple of 100 hats, anonymously donated. They just showed up at Fox one day. I mean, people are bringing water and ice and smoothie trucks, and every day something different from somebody else.
I mean, like you mentioned regarding social media, I told you earlier, I wish I could physically be there with y'all. Yeah. I truly do. But it's amazing how we can still be part of it through social media. And I've been hearing about it, keeping up. But for me personally, like I never thought it would affect me. But I had some actors who were booked to come on the show and they had to respectfully reschedule because of the strike. So that's when I was like, wow, this is so crazy that this is part of history. And it is affecting me, and I support that completely.
Well, I mean, this weekend is Comic-Con. Comic-Con is this weekend, and there's no stars there promoting, so the whole vibe there is different. And, I really think that this particular strike, because of social media, at the beginning of the strike deadline, they asked me, they said, Mark, what role does social media play in this strike? And I said, it's a gift for us, because we now have a 24/7 PR machine working at no cost to us, So when you have a doofus like David Zaslav, the guy who runs Warner Brother Discovery, decide to show up at Boston University and give a commencement speech, knowing the students don't want him there, knowing the strike just began, and he had nobody in his ear going, David, this is not a good idea. And he went, and there were students picketing outside the university. Then half the kids in the commencement speech turned their chairs around when he came on, wouldn't look at him. Wow. And then they started chanting, pay your writers in the middle of his speech. So with Twitter and TikTok and everything else and IG, what a gift. Thank you, Mr. Zaslav. Thank you for that. Like, dude, it's a gift. So we're clearly coming out on the winning side of the PR war, which is advantageous to us.
Absolutely. And just the awareness and hearing all these stories from so many SAG-AFTRA members, WGA members, writers who are just telling us, their living conditions or, just how the last few years of their careers have been. To me, it's just so shocking. But at the same time, I'm so happy that we are learning about this. It's terrible that we had to get to this point, obviously. But to me, I feel like it's a collaborative art form and everyone should be compensated for their work.
And so, to present it to your viewers and stuff in simple terms, like, the expression, it takes a village, right? So us as the writers, we build the foundation, and then the actors come in on the ground floor and on stage and present the words and stories. And then these tech lords who are running these companies are making billions of dollars off of us. And now that the village has been built, they're asking the very people that built the village to leave. Dude, like Bezos, your yacht, we were responsible for you being able to have that beautiful yacht. And then the little yacht that you're building to go with the big yacht. And we're not asking for the moon. You would think we should, because again, we are the birth of the art. It starts with our words, right? We spin the words, we create the world and characters and tell the story. We are asking for 2% of the combined profits of all these AMPTP members. 2%. That's it. And they walk away from the table, and then they get on, and Sarandos from Netflix the other day, we want to make a deal. We really want this to end. We really want to make it. You know where we are. We're in front of Netflix. Look out your window. We're at Fox. We're at Disney. We're at Warner Brothers. We're at Sony. We're at Amazon. We are everywhere. Call us back to the table. But you're not calling us back to the table. The actors walked away Friday night at midnight. You have not contacted them all week. It's almost that maybe they wanted this strike.
Wow, you think?
Why not?
Man, how wild
They're
is that?
able to clear a lot of things off their books. They're able to force majeure a bunch of huge deals. They're saving money on production. But here's what they don't know. So here's the thing, Stephanie. I love this. And by the way, by now, I don't hold back. Like, I'll call out Zaslav. I'll call out like Bob Iger. We didn't even get to Bob Iger yet. Wait till we get to him. But Sarandos from Netflix, he goes, to be honest, because of this strike and us not having to shell out money for production for TV or movies, we have an influx of $5 billion in cash. We have $5 billion of cash we didn't spend on film and TV. So he thought he was being, look at me, I'm a genius, right? The next day, Netflix plummeted 10%. He lost $18 billion in stock value, the company did. After going, look at me, $5 billion, woo, I'm so smart. The next day, Wall Street answered, and he lost $18 billion. And I used to grow up, I don't know about you, but when I was like 12, 13, 14 and in school and watching the world and reading the newspaper and watching the news, I automatically thought, well, if you're a billionaire, you're really, really smart. It doesn't make you smart. It certainly does not make you a humane person. And that's what I've discovered. I don't mind sharing the story with you. I posted it on social media. So I attended 2 days ago, there was a Teamster rally in downtown LA. The UPS drivers are on the brink of possibly going on strike at the end of the month. 350,000 Teamsters. 350,000. That would be the largest strike.
Wow.
Now, part of the success of our strike in being able to shut down production of film and TV is because Teamsters will never cross a picket line. So trucks delivering equipment that are needed to shoot, maybe the truck with the cameras, whatever, could be a truck with wardrobe, could be a truck with food, whatever. Trucks would turn around. Soon as one person with the sign walks across the studio gate, the truck turns around. There's a real badass Teamster leader, Teamsters 399, and her name is Lindsay Doherty. And she's a badass. She came out the first day we went on strike. She talked about how the Teamsters will support us. And she said to the AMPTP, to all you big tech lords, fuck around and you'll find out. And she's just like the darling of our strike because we didn't know who she was. And, you know, in fact, I met her and, you know, I'll share the picture with you later. But the point is, the story I want to tell you is that I went to this rally there was about 400 writers. We were asked to go support the UPS drivers at their downtown rally because they've been there for us. We've also been supporting hotel workers who are also on strike, on fair wages. They were sharing stories with us of all these incredible, fierce women who get up at 4 a.m, drive 2 hours because they can't afford to live anywhere near LA because it's too expensive. And so they live, 2 hours away. They drive in, they work at one hotel, clean toilets or cafeteria or whatever, then go to another hotel for another shift. Get home, don't see their kids, and do it over again. They're out there striking. We're out there with them. So my story that I posted is forever. If you asked me, Mark, what do you do? What are you? Who are you? How would you? I would say I'm a writer. I'm in the 1% of the Writers Guild who works all the time and has had hit shows, and I won an Emmy, and that's who I am and all that. And I'm at this event standing with writers, standing with actors, SAG-AFTRA was there, standing with these UPS drivers, these Teamsters, and all these speakers were up there. And I started getting emotional and tearing up, listening to their stories and how these UPS drivers, all they want is fucking air conditioning in their trucks, and they don't have that. They want the part-timers who are hired to have a living wage. Their asks are so simple, and they're making billions upon billions of profit for UPS. And I'm standing there, and I'm overcome. And I had that epiphany where I realized I'm not a writer, I'm labor. I too am labor. Writing, stories, movies, television shows, that's my trade. And my brothers and sisters, my siblings are Teamsters and teachers and hotel workers. And together we will beat the F out of capitalist greed. We just will. This strike, different than any other strike, Steph, it's a movement. It's a movement of humane people versus inhumane people that have gotten fucking wealthy off of us and don't want to share.
Yes, so beautifully said. And what you mentioned too, it's just like the humane thing to do. And the requests, even from the UPS drivers, I'm like, that's not something that's
give us
like
air conditioning.
That's it. I mean, you keep hearing, and I mean, for me, I keep reading just, this UPS or FedEx driver passed out or this, that. And it's just not something that I feel is so hard to fix.
It's so ignored, and it shouldn't be. And don't forget, in the height of the pandemic, while everybody was getting sick and the world was shut down, who the fuck was still out there delivering toilet paper and all the essentials so people who wouldn't leave their house could survive? It was the UPS drivers putting themselves at risk, and there were some that died. Hey, nobody's saying, yeah, you get rich off of us. Let's be 50-50 partners. Nobody's saying that. Value us, respect us, pay us. At this stage of my career, dude, I've been doing this a long time. Ask me now, Mark, what are you? I'm labor, I'm pro-labor, and I will fight for every brother and sister and sibling who also is not being valued, because this is America.
Yeah, and you literally have been there. I mean, you're not just saying that you're supporting. I mean, you have been there every morning. I think you said this morning you went to Disney, was it?
Disney and Radford, CBS Radford. I did 2 this morning. Yeah. And it's so simple, Steph. Mark, why? I go, because the young writers coming up, I want them to have what I have. I have a great pension. I have great health care. I have a great retirement when I walk away, when I'm done. I did great because of my union and because of the older generation of writers that went on strike for me. So there's a lot of me. There's Andrew Ornstein and Mike Royce and Mike Scully and all these. If your listeners look them up, they're incredible producer writers. Mike Scully did The Simpsons for 28 years, and Mike Royce did Everybody Loves Raymond, and Andrew Ornstein did Malcolm in the Middle, and everybody. And we've had our taste. Why are we out there more than anybody? We want to keep the profession of writer, storyteller alive for the next generation of young people that come to LA with ideas.
Yeah.
And we didn't even mention.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Is it 2 letters? Is it 2 letters?
AI?
Yeah.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that because that's what I was. Yeah. I know. And that's so scary. It's horrifying. And it's just at the same time ridiculous. But I think everyone, not just writers, everyone needs to be very scared about that because they're coming for a lot of jobs or industries. It's not just this. So I feel like this is something this is why people should be paying close attention and they should be supporting.
Watch what we do. Exactly. Watch what we do because we're doing it to set a precedent for when you have to do it.
Thank you.
Because my brother's in the restaurant business. And we were talking, and I was telling them about AI in my business, and they literally want to replace most of us with, AI and have AI write scripts.
Crazy.
Now, the problem is it's copyright infringement. AI is absorbing all work that has been done previously by me and all the other writers and then spitting out new versions. So we'll sue the pants off them. Beyond that, I carry a sign that says, AI never lived with my mother. Good luck with that story.
I saw that. I took a screenshot. I'm posting that.
Nice. So AI can't write personal stories. They can only write somebody else's story. But back to what I was saying about my brother, I was sharing all this stuff with him. He's in the restaurant business. He told me he was at a trade show and they've developed like a mechanical arm for restaurants to flip the burgers.
What?
So all the kids at work at In-N-Out and Shake Shack and Wendy's and Burger King, etc., they'll be out of jobs. Then what about, adults that come to the United States and this is the job they can get? They'll be out of work. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
You don't think in 15, 20 years you may send your kid to school and he's going to meet his teacher whose pronouns are A and I? And somebody else, another adult I was talking to said, even if there are teachers still, when his kid's ready to go to school, he goes, I know my kid. He's not going to want to waste 8 hours a day at school when he can get it all done with ChatGPT in 10 minutes. We are on the precipice of scary fucking times. And what bothers me the most is certain things need to be holy. And to me, the arts, what I do, telling stories, entertaining. Listen, I remember as a kid, right? Part of why I love certain shows is because I'd be watching and go, oh my gosh, I have a crush on her, this actor. She's so hot. Like, I think maybe I can end up with her. And I'm 14 years old. I'm watching this show because oh my gosh, if I know it's not real, that it's artificially manufactured character, I'm not going to have that attraction and want to watch because. So I think one of the things that to me always happens is people, they always underestimate the audience and they never give their audience more credit. And so the reality is, I do a lot of family programming, and I had a great family show that I wrote with another young writer, and Danielle Fishel, who played Topanga, was attached as director, and we were going to produce it together. And we took it to Disney. And it's a really good show called I'm With Her. And we pitched it, and they go, that's a really good show, but we're not doing these kind of shows anymore. I'm like, wait, you're Disney. You're not doing these kind of shows. And they said, well, our audience, we find our audience is leaving and going to TikTok and YouTube. I went, okay. I said, give them a reason not to.
Yes.
Give them a good show. They'll watch it. They'll still go to YouTube. They'll still go to TikTok, but give them a good show. They'll watch it. People like good stuff. Audiences, they don't need this crazy, like everything is an IP, a superhero, a reboot, a sequel, a this, that. Just tell a good story.
It's so crazy that they don't see that, because if you think about it, there are so many remakes, like so many shows or movies that are coming back, and everyone's older, you're just like hearing about what their story was. But I'm like, don't y'all see that y'all are going back to the feel good, like the shows that kind of made and raised a lot of the people that are still watching?
Yeah. Well, there's also too, when the world, one of the first things you mentioned is the state of the world, and it's dark right now. People want comfort. They want comfort. They want to watch young people. They want to watch a family with young people. They want to watch likable characters just getting through life. They don't always, want to be overstimulated by incredible $300 million special effects and stuff. Just, a simple story. Look what we're doing. What are we doing right now? Me and you. We're just talking.
Chatting.
That's it.
And it's feel good, and we're filling people in. And that's something to what you just mentioned about comfort shows, and people just want to feel good. I mean, there's too much negative stuff going around in the world anyway, right? So it's like, let me just escape for a second. And you are the reason as to why I have a comfort show, and why I, when I was younger, had a show that I could watch and laugh. And like you mentioned also earlier, that you felt like you could relate to, like they could be your friends, or if you have a crush on one of them, it's like realistic. Yeah, and that show is Boy Meets World. And you played such a huge part. And it's wild to think, right, that you and I were connected back then because you were writing those things. So it's like crazy to think that the stuff that I was probably laughing at, like you were the mastermind. I mean, how amazing is that?
So I was really fortunate. I mean, Michael Jacobs created the show and came like right away after the pilot. I was asked to join the staff, and I watched the pilot and I said no. I felt the show was too young at first. Although I loved like Bill Daniels, oh my gosh, Mr. Feeney, Bill Daniels, genius. And the irony was, when I first came to LA, one of my closest friends is Howie Mandel, and he was doing a show called St. Elsewhere, which was a medical drama. And Bill Daniels was one of the stars of that. He played Dr. Mark Craig. He won multiple Emmys for it. It's one of the greatest medical shows ever. And so I'm on set as like this, 25-year-old kid new to LA hanging out, and I'm watching like Bill Daniels act, and I know who he is. He's in The Graduate, and who would have thunk that years later I'd be writing for him. But I went back and met again after year one, and they sat down in the meeting and said, we're going to age the show up. We are going to have the kids, Corey and Sean and Topanga, they're going to skip 2 grades. We're going to put them in junior high, and we want to take advantage, Mark, of what you do as a writer and as a, comic writer. And, as a kid, my favorite show was Happy Days. Like, I loved Happy Days, Fonzie, all that stuff. And so when we brought on characters like Harley, Frankie, and Joey, it kind of felt like Happy Days. And I was in heaven. And, I had a big part, as you said, in the, my first year on that show, year one, I wrote 5 of the episodes, which is unheard of.
Which is a lot. Yes.
A lot. And unheard of. And to this day, I'm very proud, because a lot of the most iconic Boy Meets World episodes I was blessed to have written. And what's amazing about this strike is, people who know me know I mentor and champion young writers, and I'm approachable. And so I'll have all these young writers come up to me on the picket lines and go, you wrote my favorite episode, or they want you to take the roles as my favorite line ever, and you wrote it, and all this. And I'm so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so humbled. Like, it's like, I can't believe it. And it was a time in my life that really changed who I was as an artist. Like I wanted to keep writing family stuff.
And
I wanted
so
to keep
good
affecting.
at it.
Oh, stop.
You're so
Thank
good
you.
at it.
Thanks.
And growing up, I guess like let's go back in time a little. Growing up,
Okay.
did you want to be a writer? Were you into the entertainment? Did you want to be an actor, comedian? How did that begin?
So I do remember that in grade school, the first thing I ever wrote that I think was pretty fucking good, because here I am, 50 years later, and I remember, and I'm talking about it, I remember writing a story called The Sad Times of Pigskin Pete. And Pigskin Pete was a little football, and he had two eyes and a mouth, but he had tears. And he was always sad because they began the game, and games should be fun, and everybody should be laughing and smiling. But how does a football game begin? They kicked him. They kicked Pigskin Pete. Very sad. So that was the first thing I ever wrote.
I love it.
And then I put it away. I put it aside. And I grew up in Canada. I was a jock. I was a hockey player.
Okay.
And I was,
of course. I know you love hockey. Now it makes sense.
Love hockey.
Why?
Makes sense. And I was good. And I played against Wayne Gretzky when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
We're the same age. It was a tournament in Ontario, and Wayne scored 11 goals on me. 11 goals. So at that point, I realized, I don't know if pro hockey is going to work out for both of us. Maybe him, maybe the guy who scored the 11 goals. But I kept playing. And, there were a lot of guys I played with for years that made it to the NHL. And I ripped my knee up when I was 17.
Oh, ouch.
And back then, ouch. Oh, look at that perfect sound effect. I ripped my knee up, and Stephanie goes, ouch.
Ouch.
Perfect. I wouldn't have thought of that. Ouch. Wow. The perfect word. Ouch.
I'll be here.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then I had surgery, and it hurt again. More.
Ouch.
Ouch. And that was it. Like I knew hockey was kind of done for me. And I had a buddy, and we loved Saturday Night Live. Loved it. And this is, the original Saturday Night Live in the 70s with Bill Murray and Gilda Radner and Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin, Lorraine Newman, Garrett Morris, all these amazing Belushi. And we would watch it. I'd go to his house, and we would watch it all the time. And then after maybe 2-3 months, we went, let's write some sketches. So we wrote some sketches. We just wrote some sketches. We made up characters. We wrote commercial parodies. We had these different things. We wrote news jokes. We just put a whole package together. And we sent it in to Lorne Michaels, who's the producer of Saturday Night Live. We sent it in. And about 4 weeks go by. Steven calls me one day. He says, after school, he says, come over. I go, what? He goes, just come over. I go, just tell me. He goes, no, I'm not telling you. Just come over. Just come over. So I get on my bike. I ride over to his house. And I go, what? And he goes, guess who I just got off the phone with?
No.
I'm like, I don't fucking know. He goes, Lorne Michaels. I'm like, what?
What?
He loved our sketches, and he wants to bring us to New York for an interview.
Stop.
Yeah. So we're 16, maybe 17 years old, big, bad 70s afros, horrible acne. I was 17. I looked 14. I looked like I was still in my bar mitzvah, vibe. And we end up going to New York, and we're meeting. The interview was with Al Franken and Tom Davis. Al Franken, who went on to become senator of Minnesota, and his writing partner, Tom Davis. They were just getting back to pre-production. They hadn't started filming, and they're on the floor plugging lamps in and all these, getting their office. And we kind of hit the door, and Al Franken looks up, and he sees these
kids.
He literally, Steph, that was what he said. He goes, oh, you guys are just kids.
Oh.
And we went, yeah. Well, what about your resume? Your resume under comedy, it said Second City. We assumed you worked for Second City. And I said, well, no. Let me explain. Under comedy, I put Second City because I'm a big fan. That's the comedy I like. Second City, SCTV, I love it. And they looked at us and said, how do you guys feel? You tricked us. You must feel pretty bad. And I just said, because I was a smart ass kid, well, How do you feel? Like you're the guy who let us trick you. You got tricked. Who's like who's worse off, the tricker or the tricky? Or the tricksters. Exactly. Very good. So they talked to us for like an hour. They were really nice and then let us go on our merry way. And during the next season, there were a couple of sketches that were kind of close to what we wrote, and we were just thrilled. So we knew. And so that's where I really begun to believe that I like show business. By the way, back then, it was show business. We don't even call it show business anymore. They call it the industry, or the entertainment industry. I got in it because I love show business. So Stephen, that was my friend's name at the time. We were going to a junior college back in Canada. Before you went to university, you went to what's called CJEP, 2 years of CJEP, junior college. So the first day, there's a sign on the bulletin board that student council is accepting new clubs. If you have an idea for a club, we went, let's put on our own Saturday Night Live. And the school was called Vanier. We'll call it Vanier Live. How original. And so we went and pitched the idea to student council. They gave us $3,500 and an office.
Oh.
So I'm 17 years old, 16, turning 17. I'm going to junior college. Me and my buddy Steven have an office and a budget. Do you know how hot I felt? I was like, dude, like I could go up to anybody. I'm like, you want to go out with me? You don't want to go out? Did I tell you I have an office? I have an office. You have an office? I do. And so we auditioned, cast. Students tried out. Ironically, our best actor is a huge producer today in Los Angeles. I still talk to him. His name is Arthur Smith. He has a company called Arthur Smith Productions. He does Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay. That's his show.
That's
he
amazing.
does Ninja Warriors, those competition shows on NBC. Those are all his shows. So he was like our star. So we put on the show. We sold out. We discovered him. Exactly. We put on the show. We sold out every night. We got great reviews, amazing reviews. Then we did it again the next semester in the winter. We wrote new material, did it again. We made T-shirts. We made hoodies. We made pins. We sold them all.
All the merch.
We were way ahead of our time. Stephen and I, out of the $3,500 we were given, I think we spent $2,000 of it, made another $2,000 in merch and tickets. We were what's called snowbirds, right? You grow up in Montreal during the cold winters. You're a snowbird and you go to Florida where it's warm. And back then, like we'd go, like, you know how it was, like 6, 7 kids, like splitting a little motel room, right? $15 each, and you get this motel on the beach. Well, that year, they're like, Steven, Mark, you guys gonna split the room, right? You're gonna bid. We're like, no, we're good. We didn't tell anybody. And one night we invited everybody to our penthouse suite at the Diplomat Hotel because we had all this money. So we rented for like 2-3 nights. We stayed, we booked the penthouse suite at the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood Beach, Florida. I'm a kid and this is what I'm doing. So like, I was just like, I love this. I want to do more of it. And so now a comedy club is finally opening in Montreal. The first comedy club is called Stitches. And they're holding auditions. And me and my buddy Steve, who did the show, Vanier Live, we opened the show with a comedy routine. So we had a routine. So we went and auditioned for this club Stitches and we got hired. And now I'm getting paid $50 a night and I'm still in school. I'm in Vanier. And then eventually I go to McGill. My buddy Steve is done. He's done with showbiz. He hates it. He wanted to do what his father did, which is like accounting or something. Truth be told, he was the one that kept track of the money we brought in from merch. And he was good at that. I never knew. I just, can we take all the money? Yeah, exactly. I didn't invest. I didn't do anything. I was like, spend, rock and roll. Woo!
Everyone played their part.
That's it. I knew my part. Trust me. And then I started doing stand-up myself without him. And I was really good. And I had a blast. And then I developed a wrestler gimmick called Crusher Comic.
I heard about that.
You heard about that?
Oh yeah,
Which
it was like what sold
yeah,
out comedy clubs all across the U.S.
all over
and
the place. It
Canada.
was on. So for those of your listeners, I was a big wrestling fan as a kid. I loved professional wrestling. My grandfather took me when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old. I was hooked, and I always went to the matches. And I wanted to be a professional wrestler, but I was just like this, hockey playing, nerdy, somewhat. I mean, it was kind of jockey, but not quite. But I knew I wasn't big enough to be there's not a lot of middle class Jewish people in professional wrestling. So I created the character anyway. I created a wrestler character who was an ex stand-up. The gimmick was I wore a mask so nobody knew who I was. I had wrestling tights, a tuxedo shirt, a bow tie, a cummerbund, wrestling boots, these big, long velour robes with sparkles all over, like Ric Flair. And I would come out to Eye of the Tiger, pound people in the audience to the music. I swear, Stephanie, I swear. I would then pull somebody out of their seat and give them an airplane spin.
Stop
I would take somebody from the audience, spin them, and I didn't tell them before the show. I didn't tell them.
I would be mortified.
I'm next. I mean, yeah.
Wee!
And by the way, as I started to get known, people would come up to me before, spin my friend, spin my husband, they would request. So I'm doing this act, Crusher Comic, very popular, and I'm auditioning for movies and TV shows. And I was on All My Children, the soap opera.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, out of New York.
What?
I played Ernie Jackson, the assistant editor of the Pine Valley Daily Bulletin.
Oh, that's cool.
I starred in a movie called Meatballs 3 with Patrick Dempsey.
I did not know that either.
Yeah.
What?
So, yeah, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm going to be the next like Bill Murray. I'm going to be Robin Williams. I'm fucking badass. I'm amazing. And it was kind of a turning point when Meatballs came out because I share this story a lot because of the people, why'd you stop acting? Why'd you become a writer? I went to the premiere of Meatballs. My head is swelled. I'm like, like I said, I'm going to be a comedy. This is Meatballs 3. I mean, come on. It's only 2 removed from Meatballs 1 with Bill Murray. It's going to be huge. And Patrick Dempsey, he's becoming a big star.
Yeah.
So I go to the premiere and I take my brother. And I'm on like a co-starring role, whatever. I'm on the first scene. And every time I speak, I'm in my seat falling lower and lower.
Oh,
I don't want to watch. And I'm like just disappearing. Like, and I look up at my brother and I'm like, Kenny. He's like, what? I go, I'm pretty bad, huh? And he goes, you're not good.
Kenny wasn't, he was just honest.
Kenny, he was being honest. He didn't sugarcoat it. He's like, you're not good.
Aww.
Yeah. And then in LA, there were a lot of close calls where people wanted to cast me. They really liked me. And I would just blow it. And so, around the age of 29, 30, I kind of wrote a movie and I sold it to Fox. And that was the beginning, and like within 2 years, I was doing Boy Meets World. And, I haven't stopped since. I get asked all the time because there's so many people that still remember Crusher from the Comedy Store, they remember, or audiences. I was on the cover of Wrestling World magazine 2 times. I was on Tuesday Night Titans with Vince McMahon on USA Network as Crusher.
Really?
Yes. So these people don't you want to do? Yeah, that's what I want to do now. I want to go at 60 years old and put on tights and a mask and spin people. That's what I want to do. I won't get canceled or sued. But people are always like, yeah, do you miss it? I'm like, fuck no, I've had the best time. I have so many stories and so many experiences. Stephanie, I'm blessed. And the biggest blessing that I have is you saying how I affected your childhood, being on these strike lines, having young writers coming up to me, as I mentioned earlier. And so when I'm done, I didn't just have all these credits. I left behind a legacy, And so long after I'm gone, and it's not going to be for a while, much to my, but long after, my kids will, they'll hear about their pops. They play everything cool. They've been on all the sets with me, but they play it cool. But it's their friends in Discord and stuff going, what's your father doing now? What do you care? He's so cool. We listen to his podcast. My kids are like, we've never heard him on a podcast. They're like, your dad's a badass. Don't you call my dad a badass. Like, it's just funny. Their friends love me. My kids are like, that's just dad.
And I love that. I love that because like you're so down to earth, so humble, and you really have done amazing things. And like you said, in the showbiz, and it's wow to me too. And even when you were saying that you were sinking down in your chair, you know, as you were watching yourself, I'm like, now looking back, do you think you were that bad, or do you think you were just being a tough critic? Because I know we can be we can be so tough, you know, when it comes to our work, but do you feel that was part of it, or do you really think, no, that just was not for me?
So you got time for a little story?
Yeah, of course.
This will answer your question.
Oh.
So I told you I hung out at St. Elsewhere, right? Which was one of the biggest medical shows in television history. And Denzel Washington was in it, Ed Begley, Christina Pickles, Bill Daniels, as I said, Ed Flanders, like, you know, Mark Harmon, the cast, David Morse. It was like the cast of casts. And I'm on the set every day. And I became friends with one of the executive producers, a guy by the name of John Macias. And we became friends because he was a very sarcastic guy and he loved to make fun of people. And I would just give it back to him. And he liked the fact that this, you know, idiot from Canada who was just trying to make it in showbiz would go like battle him. And he loved hockey and had a table hockey game in his office.
Oh, nice.
You know, knob hockey with the men. And it's like foosball kind of, but with hockey men.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
And so we would play every day. And, you know, one day he's like, hey, I heard you're an actor and a comic. I go, yeah. He goes, well, you got to meet Gene Blythe, our casting director. I'd love to have you on the show. So I am now becoming friends with the boss. My closest friend, Howie, is on the show. I meet Gene. Gene loves me, the casting director. And they come up with a part they think I'd be right for. And I go in and I read for Gene. And Gene's like, you could see in his face, he's like, Mark, fuck, do better. John told me you were good. And I do it a couple of more times. And Gene says, well, let's see. And then I get the call the next day to go to producers, to go to John, his partner, Tom Fontana, the director. They're all going to be in the room. And I do the audition. And you could see everybody shaking their head. And Macias, John, the guy who was always mouthy and never held back, he goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you sucking so bad?
Oh.
And I didn't get it. A month later, I'm in the office and John goes, I really want you on the show. You're funny as all get out. I don't know why you blow the auditions. I wrote a part specifically for you in your voice to play a gardener on the show, a young gardener of Dr. Craig, who was Bill Daniels, Mr. Feeney later. So it was a part it was written in my voice. I go read it for Gene first, and you can see Gene Blythe again going, oh, fuck. And he goes, okay, well, let's go to producers later at 4:00 today. I'll see you there. Like, just be loose, be yourself. Just fuck, they want to give you this part. And I go up to the, I go up to the office later that day, and I start reading, and John Macias had a script in his hand. And he took it and he threw it at me. He goes, what the fuck is wrong with you? I wrote this part for you.
In your voice.
In your voice. Nobody can do this except you. And you can't do you. And I just went, oh, fuck this. Yeah, like, no. So I think I answered you.
I think you were, yeah. I think that just was not your calling.
It was
your calling was something else.
And I was, yeah.
You found it,
I got cast a lot, but there was always something missing. But I'll tell you one thing. What I learned from that experience, I consider myself one of the most actor-friendly producers out there. I am so kind to actors. I am so patient, especially kid actors. And even if there's a kid that I know I'm not going to cast, I'll make him feel worthwhile. I'll talk to him. I'll let him do it again. I'll never be that, okay, thanks, guy. I won't be that guy. Like, I just want, you know, and I take great pride. There's a lot of kids, you know, from the Boy Meets World kids to working with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen on So Little Time to the kids on Girl Meets World they've become big stars. I mean, and I take a lot of pride in it, you know, and teaching them and working with them and teaching them different moments and, you know, just kind of elevating them as an actor. So I do love that.
And you're so good at it too. And even I try to keep up, but the Boy Meets World podcast, Pod Meets World, Pod Meets World.
Yeah.
I try to listen to it, and I listened to the episode that you were on, and it's so amazing to even like hear Ryder Strong just saying how you were such a crucial, important part of the show, and that you were a big voice for a lot of the episodes that we love. So how much does it mean to you knowing that these actors, I mean, they adore you. You've made such an impact, not only in their lives, but for so many viewers like myself.
I think that the fact that I get emotional when you say what you said is such a blessing, because there are so many people that maybe wouldn't react this way. And I do react this way because I maybe wouldn't have 20 years ago if somebody said, hey, Mark, you're really good. You're amazing. But now to know how much I'm valued, you know, and I'm a big advocate of this simple phrase that everybody of every age, any gender, of any culture, has the ability to bring value to somebody else's life. So knowing that we bring each other value, that they value what I did and are able to, you know, share that feeling with me, and I value them, I value the audience, I value you saying what you're saying. It's overwhelming. It's humbling. And again, it's what I said before, Steph, that like I'm more than just leaving a list of shit on IMDb. I'm truly part of, you know, a legacy, you know, of shows created by Michael Jacobs, and but that I was able to run and produce and be a big part of. It's overwhelming, and I never get tired of it anymore. And I love feeling that emotion.
It's so beautiful.
And I think there's a lot of artists out there that feel that too, that, you know, sharing, whether it's your drawings or your poems, your lyrics, your songs, you know, as the music you write, the words, lyrics, sculpting, like it's all creative and it's all part of the arts. And you really tap into your soul and your heart. You know, I write a lot now in my recent work, a lot of characters with mental health struggles and stuff. And that's a big deal for me. And my mom is a mental health sufferer. And, you know, you spill it all out there. And sometimes it's cathartic and helps you. Sometimes it helps somebody else. But I think ultimately as artists, we want to feel, and we want other people to feel as well.
I love that. And thank you for, you know, talking about that, and especially, you know, mental health. I think that it's such an important topic. I am so grateful that people are more open to it nowadays. I don't remember, like when I was younger, I don't remember so many people talking about mental health and raising awareness and making people feel like it's okay to not be okay, right? Or to ask for help.
Absolutely. I just think that, you know, if you don't understand that everybody has something, then you are going to suffer so much more, because your belief is you're the only one. We all have stuff. I have stuff. I get anxious. I mean, to this day, like I remember growing up, my mother would go out a lot at night with a friend who was single, one of the early divorcees on the block. And my mother would go out all the time. And I battled my mother all the time. And I couldn't fall asleep while she was out. Once she came home and I heard the car door slam, I fell asleep before she made it upstairs. Just the sound. And now with my youngest kid, 23, and he's a great kid, and he's faith-based kid, and he's super popular, but he doesn't party or anything. But when he's out, I can't sleep till I hear the car door. I get anxious. So I struggle with anxiety of I need everybody in my orbit, you know, for me to relax. It's not trusting. I completely trust him. I had to explain that to him. I said, no, I trust you. I just, there was a coach, I think it was Coach Parcells of the New York Giants years ago. He said, nothing good happens after midnight. So I always in my head. So I suffer from a lot of that. And when I was in relationships, same thing, until I heard I'm home, I couldn't sleep. It's not healthy, because the other person doesn't always understand where you're coming from. A lot of times they feel smothered. Why doesn't he trust me? It's not that. I just, this is the anxiousness that I've carried from being a teenager with my mom. But, as I mentioned, Steph, like one of the shows I have now is a show called Gripped, which is based on a young adult best-selling book series called Gripped. And it's about high school and college football and opioid and benzo addiction and mental health. And that show's set up, and we're waiting with a production company, and we're waiting to take it out when the strike settled. But it's kind of like Friday Night Lights meets Euphoria. And, the kids in there deal with mental health. So that's an important show for me. And then I have a movie called Arigato Tokyo about a 48-year-old female professional wrestler. See, tying it back to me loving wrestling as a kid.
Yeah.
And she's strung out and, a lot of addictions, and she's a mess. And she was once a big star, especially in Japan. And she's estranged from her daughter and her ex-husband, of course. And she struggles with depression, anxiety, and she takes a lot of pills and stuff and opioids. And her friend, mentor, and manager says, if you get your shit together, I'll talk to a promoter in Japan, and maybe you go back to Japan where you were once huge, and we'll reignite that feud you had with the Japanese star. And she goes back to Japan, and while she's there, she falls in love with this 26-year-old Japanese man who's much younger. And we come to find out that this kid is the son of the woman she's wrestling at the Tokyo Dome.
Oh, okay.
So It's got, there's a movie called Lost in Translation with Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray, much older dude, much younger girl.
Yeah.
Seems to be a common theme in a lot of my work, life. So it was great to write. I wrote it just before the strike. We're going to shoot it in April in Tokyo, but it's this woman that battles mental health stuff.
Wow.
And we come to find out it's because she's an athlete, a professional wrestler. She has post-concussion syndrome. It's 20 years of concussions. So all the pills she takes, all the symptoms of anxiety and depression and memory loss are because of the concussions. So we haven't seen that from a badass female character before.
We have not. And especially, for me, coming from like the sports and soccer background, I've been hearing more about it. It's awesome that you're going to raise awareness and give that perspective, that point of view, because I do feel people need to be more aware of it and just to feel like they're not alone. And there was a soccer player friend I have, Lauren Sesselman. I interviewed her, I think like 2 episodes ago. I mean, she's very vocal about concussions, and she might even maybe make little jokes like, oh, maybe I forgot because of my concussions. But
oh my gosh. So I'm so glad you totally get this.
I get it. I absolutely get it.
And that's what I mean. Like everybody has stuff. Everybody has stuff, Steph. Like everybody. Nobody's alone. So right now at this stage of my career, I want to do work that I feel is important and continue to reach people and make people go, thanks for bringing that story. Now I get it.
Yeah. And they can feel like they're not alone. And that's something that you're very good at. And when it comes to your writing, I'm just like very curious. I'm sure everyone has their own different methods, but like when you write, when you create these characters or, these friends that we eventually get to make, through you when we watch TV or films, whatnot, does it come from a place of like creativity where you're just kind of thinking and you're just making things as you go? Or do you do it based off of personal experiences or people that perhaps you've met along the way? Or it's a little bit of both.
Exactly. So Arigato Tokyo, I'll start with that. It's based on my mother and me, but I didn't want to make it a dude because I didn't want family to go, wait, is that? They'll know anyway. But there's a line in there, an exchange between mother and daughter that was actually uttered in my house. It was spoken in my house 45 years ago. And so it's real. Sometimes it's taken from my life. Sometimes it's taken from somebody else I know. And sometimes it's just created in the magic, shop in the back of my brain where little elves work, and they build characters and they build little worlds, and then I just kind of spit it out. Literally. I think I was gifted something, and I don't take it for granted. And I'm very, very thankful that I was gifted this, and that Gretzky scored 11 goals on me in one game. So I was able to go, maybe something else.
Maybe not for me.
Or I was able to watch my acting and go, meh. Or I was able to audition for St. Elsewhere, and they wanted to give me the part. And again, I was able to
threw the script at you.
I'll see it, exactly. One of the things I just tell young people all the time is just kind of, you're smarter than you think. And you know the answers. I get asked questions all the time, and I always say to writers, I go, if you're a writer, then you're super smart. You can't not be smart and be a good writer. Well, what do you mean, Mark? I mean, you know the fucking answer. You don't have to ask me the questions. People just want to be validated, and they don't trust themselves sometimes. But, I think what I was really good at is, and still am to this day, despite the odd struggle here and there, self-awareness. Just understanding myself, understanding my strengths, ownership of my weaknesses and flaws always. I don't hide them. I meet somebody and we talk. It's like, here's the good, here's the bad. You're going to know it all in the next 2 hours. If you want to hang out with me, great. If you don't, okay. But that's fine. Whether, it's on a podcast or sitting in a restaurant, a coffee shop, I'm just like, this is it. Like, what am I hiding?
I like that.
Yeah.
And a question I have, we're almost done. We can talk, you and I. So is there maybe a favorite episode that you have that you wrote, or a favorite line or something that you're just like, wow, I did that?
So I'll talk generally and then I'll give my final answer.
Okay.
So certainly one of the most iconic episodes is when Vader appeared on the show, the wrestler who passed away, Vader. And we filmed an episode in front of 16,000 people at the pond in Anaheim. And nobody's ever done that, any sitcom ever, in front of 16,000 people. Like, who does that? And so that gets talked about a lot. Also, Vader's first appearance, the Thrilla and Phila, where Yasmin Bleeth was on. And that, that was all the time people talk about that. They also talk about an episode I did called B&B's B&B, where Corey and Sean turned Feeney's house into a bed and breakfast.
I remember that, yeah.
While he was out of town, and they had couples. That was fucking great.
It was people hilarious, yeah.
But for me, there were 2 episodes that stand out. One I wrote, one I didn't, but took part in the writing. The one I didn't write, but was really important, and I get people come up to me all the time, and it's so emotional. We did an episode where Corey knocks on the door of Sean's trailer, and Sean opens the door, and in the background is a girl coming out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, and Corey's like, Sean, my man. All right, Sean, hooking up with the girl. All right. And he's like, it's not what you think, Corey. Okay, Sean, you don't want to tell me, but I see what I see. And over the course of the episode, Corey learns that Sean is protecting this girl. It's a friend, and she's getting beaten by her father at home. And she's got bruises up and down her arm. And so the episode was about these 2 kids faced with this heavy life situation of protecting this girl from being beaten by her father. And ultimately, they go to the parents, Corey's parents, and they go to the cops, and the dad ends up arrested, and the girl goes and lives with an aunt in Vermont. And then at the end of the episode, we had, the PSA, public service announcement, if you or anyone you know is being abused, physically abused or harmed in any way, call this number. 1995, maybe, we're doing that. That was pretty fucking heavy. And that means a lot to me that I was part of that.
Yeah.
Being a big part of, right from the birth of the relationship, Sean and Angela.
Oh.
So to do an interracial teen relationship in 1995 and write this beautiful love story between this young black girl and this poor white boy with a heart of gold. And so I was running the show during that time. Michael was off doing other shows, Michael Jacobs. And so that forever means the world to me because it was seminal. It gets talked about nowadays. Another episode that I wrote that I recently did a watch along with a bunch of people that belong to an entertainment group. They invited me to bring an episode of Boy Meets World and watch with them. And it was an episode called What I Meant to Say. And it was the episode where Corey blurted out, "I love you" for the first time to Topanga.
Yeah.
And all the guys at school were pissed because now all their girlfriends expected to hear it.
I love you. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to hear "I love you." And there was this really beautiful scene between the two of them where Corey climbs up the trellis or whatever, the plan goes through her window. He wanted his jean jacket back that he gave her at the beginning of the episode. And they exchanged their thoughts about what love means. Corey says what he thinks "I love you" means. Topanga says what she thinks it means. And after Topanga says it, she thinks about what she just said, and she says, "Oh, well, then I love you, Corey."
Yeah.
And he says, "I was always hoping you did." And then he leaves, climbs out the window, and then you see his jean jacket fly back through the window, and she grabs it.
Yes.
And so that, there was an episode called What I Meant to Say, and I watched it recently, like I said, with that group. We did a watch along, and it holds up. It's a beautiful episode, and that's probably one of my favorites. And then on Girl Meets World, I wrote an episode that was nominated for a WGA award, which is our Writers Guild, which is our peers. And it was one of my sons got diagnosed on the spectrum with Asperger at like 17 years old. So I wrote an episode where one of our characters was going through tests to see if he was autistic or not. And it turned out the girl he liked was. And it just was really important to be able to, as I was dealing with learning about my son, to write an episode about it. So the ability to process stuff in life that you're going through and then spit it out on a page and have actors bring it to the stage, it's pretty cool.
It's a beautiful thing. It's art. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like the human side, and you're making everyone feel something.
Yeah.
Which is huge. It's like the best thing you can do, I think.
It's the best.
Oh, you're so awesome. I don't know if I even told you or if you knew this, but I had Trina McGee, who played Angela, on the show last year. So it's like full circle right now. You mentioned their relationship.
I just saw her a couple of weeks ago at the Boy Meets World reunion. We took a picture together with me, her, and Ryder. I'll send it to you. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you for sure.
You created like one of our favorite couples ever.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty cool.
And I know that you're going to be out there. You're going to continue supporting. But what message do you want to spread through the strike, or what do you hope for, the outcome to be?
I want a fair outcome. I want labor all over the world, any kind of labor, to be treated fairly. Capitalism, when it is at the expense of a fair living wage for the people that create the goods and services that make the CEOs billionaires, there's a flaw in the system. You can look at your bank account and there could be billions of dollars in there, but that doesn't excuse you from treating people inhumanely. And I want to get back to a place in our country where people are valued, whether you clean a toilet in a hotel, deliver a package and throw it on somebody's doorstep, or you write a movie or a TV show that affects people. We're all labor, and we all deserve to be treated fair.
Say it louder. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Stephanie.
I am so grateful for you and loved talking to you. And this means a lot. And I'm so happy that, we got to learn about you and obviously about what's important in the world, including, this writer's strike. And I really hope we can look back and all of us, including our listeners, just, look back and think, wow, we did this and we were part of something bigger than ourselves. So,
and for your listeners, I'm sorry for being so bold. If anybody wants to help, there's a fund called A Life in the Arts. It's the Entertainment Community Fund. And we've raised so much money. And it doesn't just go to writers who need it. It goes to people who work in wardrobe, hair, makeup, people who are also out of work now because of our strike. And it's a really good cause. In fact, I auctioned off a Boy Meets World show jacket and raised $350 for the Entertainment Community Fund. So if any of your listeners viewers want to help out, on Twitter, it's at A Life in the Arts. Or the website, I believe, is entertainmentcommunityfund.com.
And we'll make sure to post it. I'll make sure that we post the link.
It's awesome.
Thank you so much, Mark. You're awesome.
Thank you, Stephanie. So are you.